Hey everybody, Bob here, and we're here with Kristine Fischer, aka Midwest Fisher Gal, and we're so excited to have you here. And I'm really looking forward to the next 20 minutes or so just to kind of get to know you a little bit more. And I thank you for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's going to be a good chat.
Now, where are you? You had to make a few stops in order to set this thing up. So where are you right now?
I am currently on next to Lake Chickamauga down in Tennessee. Just got back from a tournament in Arkansas and on my way to Georgia for a tournament on Lanier. So kind of a
Fabulous.
point right now.
Yeah, life on the road for sure. So let
Right.
me let me just sort of level set for our audience that doesn't necessarily know you, Kristine.
Mhm.
Um, where are you from? How did you get started fishing as a kid, and when did you really catch the bug?
Um, well, I'm from a little town, Weeping Water, Nebraska. That's in southeastern Nebraska. And fortunately for me, I was brought into a very outdoors, specifically fishing oriented family. There are photos of me when I was as young as 2 years old, holding fish, fishing. We took vacations all over the country. Everything was centered around fishing trips. I fished family walleye fishing tournaments with my grandpa and my dad. Just a huge part of my life and my upbringing. And it was something that I've always enjoyed doing. And, it's the one thing that I knew I wanted to pursue a career in one way or another.
Right, right. I have some ties to Nebraska as well after working for a software company out of Lincoln for a long, long time. So
Yeah,
there's huge, passionate outdoorsmen in Nebraska for sure.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. So you've been on the road for quite a while. That's part of your life, but at least the last 2, 3 weeks, describe where you've been and where you've fished and maybe what you've been fishing for.
Well, gosh, the last 3 weeks I've fished in northern Wisconsin. That was just kind of a solo fun trip. I had a random 2.5 week break between tournaments, and I was in Pennsylvania on the Susquehanna, and a tournament out there for smallmouth. Then I went to Wisconsin and fished a bass tournament on La Crosse. Then I went to northern Wisconsin and fished for muskie with Pete Mania. We filmed a little show there, and then I did some smallmouth and muskie fishing. Then I went down to South Dakota and fished one of my favorite little lakes down there for smallmouth. Then went down to Arkansas, fished a tournament for bass fishing tournament, and now drove back in Tennessee for a day, and then I'll head down to Georgia tomorrow to start pre-fishing for Lanier.
Holy cow.
Yeah,
That's crazy. It's almost like, dartboard because there's not a linear progression there. It's just you're all over the place.
I go wherever the fish are biting, and whenever the tournaments tell me I need to go. So I kind of like that.
Right. So, what's been your go-to setup over the last few weeks in those tournaments?
It's really varied. Every place I've been, the bite's been just a little bit different. But one thing that's remained constant in all three lakes, the topwater bite, we're in that fall transition where bait's, getting on the move, and these little colder temperatures are pushing that bait around. So, even on the Susquehanna and La Crosse and northern Wisconsin, I had a phenomenal, and even in Arkansas, had a great topwater bite. I mean, your buzz bait, big walking baits, those have been doing really well all over the country this time of year.
Yeah. So, and again, for our audience that don't know Kristine, she is a huge kayak fisherman. I mean, that's basically what she does, and
Yeah,
she's known for kayak fishing. And trust me, guys and girls, ladies watching this, she's a badass in the kayak community. You've been all over, you've won, you've cashed checks, and you've had a lot of success.
been pretty fortunate. Yeah, hard work goes a long way.
And I believe you started kayak fishing maybe 5 years ago, maybe. Is that correct? Or is it longer than
Um, well, I've kayak fished for years, decades probably, but tournament fishing, I started fishing grassroots local tournaments about 5 years ago, national tournaments about 3 years ago. So that
that?
would
Right,
be, yeah, about 5 years in the tournament scene.
right. And do you like the sort of the serenity of the kayak better than, being in a boat? Or is there
Um,
any difference?
I can't really speak I can't speak to the boat side of things much because I've never I've never fished a bass tournament in a boat. I did the walleye tournaments when I was a kid, and I've only been in a boat a handful of times, over the years. The reason I got into kayak fishing is because it was something I could do right out the gate, all on my own. And it does bring a sense of intimacy into the sport. You're really close to the water. You're able to access these remote under pressured waters that boats can't get to. And it's a really neat thing. But mostly I was able to keep my independence, literally go out there, fish on my own, fish where I wanted to, and not be at the mercy of a boater. Because the other option for me was to be a co-angler and do the boat things. And I thought about that pretty heavily and decided to go the kayak route for now, because I knew I would literally have to live and die by my decisions and my decisions only when it came to finding fish and catching fish. Right.
And when you're in the kayak, you've got to watch your surroundings and watch, weather. And when you're on big bodies of water, you gotta really know what you're doing and what's going on.
Absolutely.
Because you've run into some tough conditions out there too, right?
Always, yeah. I'm known for being a little too careless, I think probably is the right word for it. Sorry, Mom. When it comes to inclement weather and fishing, especially if the bite's good, it's really tough to get me off. I've been in some situations where I probably shouldn't have been in before, but we live and we learn.
Sure, exactly. And when you're on the road all the time like this, do you, is there camaraderie with other kayak fishermen? Are you renting a house? Are you, sleeping in your car? I mean, I've done the road life in the corporate world, and fortunately I had a company that, I had an expense account, and it was hotels, right? So,
yep.
I lived kind of a good life, relatively speaking, but you're not doing that, right? Is it VRBOs? And tell us about that, traveling on the road.
It's a little bit of everything. When I'm lucky enough to get to travel with my fiance, we've got a large travel trailer that we've lived out of for the last few years. And I get to do that. But when it comes to the tournaments, I do one of three things. I have slept in my truck before at boat ramps, and man, I'm getting too old for that. I'm about 6. Not fun. Usually the last few big tournaments, I've got a lot of really good guy friends in the kayak world, and we always just split a big house, Airbnb, and that works out so well. It's great because we're all super tight knit. It's a big family, and I get to stay with some good people, and especially now, with the current pandemic going on in our country, a lot of the live captains meetings are canceled, so you don't get to see everybody, and that was the best thing about our tournaments, is getting to go and see 150 people from 20 different states that you love. You want to catch up with, and so getting to stay with a bunch of the guys, like sometimes one of the houses in La Crosse, I stayed with 11 people in the house. It was a riot.
Wow.
But people, that, or I'll camp, I'll camp or do something like that. But mostly, the last little bit, I've really enjoyed getting together with a bunch of people and splitting a house.
Right. That seems to be what a lot of the folks do when they're on the road at these big tournaments.
Yeah.
The hotels just unless you're sponsored, the hotels gets pretty spendy.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of places where there aren't hotels nearby, right?
Yeah. And every lake you go to, there's Airbnb options, and you feel like you're staying in a home. It's really nice. Cook. You can have a lot of them have outdoor fire pits. We always can hang around, have a couple of beverages, and talk fish.
Yeah, that whole Airbnb thing has changed life on the road for everybody. It's fabulous.
Yeah, it's great.
It's just great.
Yeah.
So with the season is kind of winding down, we're getting into colder temperatures. I hate to say that because I love warm weather, and I'm up in Minnesota, and there are already people talking about ice fishing. I'm like, no, I'm not ready for that yet.
Yeah.
So when we do have the colder months, are you in the south or are you ice fishing?
Well, it depends. Like I said, my season never stops. I've got tournaments that go into December and start back up again in January.
Yeah.
But I don't know this about me. I'm a very avid angler.
Yeah.
I used to guide ice fishing for 2 years back in Nebraska on my own. I took out several clients, and I have all my own stuff I've had for a decade or more. So I do a ton of ice fishing. I absolutely love ice fishing. But another thing I'm doing, I got to kind of split my time 3 ways, or 4 ways if I get to hunt. I'm an avid hunter as well, but
Yeah.
muskie fishing is my favorite in December and January. So in these southern rivers down here, the muskie fishing is fantastic. So I'm either muskie fishing, ice fishing, fishing a tournament, or doing some sort of hunting.
Yeah, like I said, guys, before, she's a badass. She musky fishes from a kayak. I just love it. It's great. And I saw the post recently where it was the biggest fish you think you caught in the kayak, and I think it snapped off. I saw it said 300 pounds.
Oh, that was that was the sturgeon I caught a couple years ago up in Oregon in the kayak.
Okay.
Oh yeah, it was huge. It was like a sturgeon. I caught that. Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know that it snapped off or anything like that. I didn't see it landing.
No.
So.
Well, you can't. It was too cold to get out of the water with it. And with sturgeon, if they're over 4 feet, it's best to leave them in the water.
Yeah, you don't want to mess with them.
No. Yeah. So I just kind of lifted it up just a little by the tail and got a picture of the massive tail, and that was about it.
Yeah. Well, let me change gears here a little bit. So, Life on the Road, you have sponsors that help out with with your expenses and giving you gear and things like that. How do you remember your first sponsor? How you got it, and how that's gone, and also how do you go about getting sponsors? What's your strategy?
I'm probably going to have a slightly different answer than a lot of people, because I've been very fortunate in my angling career that I'm kind of an anomaly when it comes to the sport, and I really haven't had to do much. Most people have kind of contacted me and, wanted to work with me. So there's always kind of been basically though, what I think I did, my first sponsor, I don't know, my first sponsor was just a product sponsor, 4 or 5 years ago or so.
Sure.
But as far as like the actual sponsorships that I've, been living off of now the last few years, those, I've just been really fortunate, more now than ever. Companies they're making a huge push into wanting to promote women in fishing, but not just that, more specifically, women that know what they're doing, are competent on the water. And, it used to be if you looked good and you just had a big social media and could hold pictures of fish, that was enough to get I wouldn't say maybe a big cash sponsorship, but a sponsorship. And now companies are really looking for those true professionals, and there are not a lot of them at all. It made my job being myself so easy, and I felt like finally these doors have opened, and I'm kind of in demand, which has been really, really nice. And we're making this push towards a more serious, true female professional. Because if you look at what the paid male professionals do, tell me somebody out there that is teaching seminars, that is winning national level tournaments, that is able to talk in depth with the technicalities and the interfaces when it comes to electronics and rod actions and exactly what the male pros do, and the ones that are getting paid to do what they do. The industry is looking for females that can match that and do that same thing. So luckily for me, I've worked my tail off. I've got the tournament resume. I've been really pushing and sticking with the companies the products that not only I believe in, but would proudly put my name on, and they luckily just want to work with me as well. So it's been a mutually just beneficial deal, I guess. Over the last few years, I've been able to cultivate these relationships with companies that I've used long before I was sponsored with them. So I think just being very true to who I am and what I'm doing and what my mission is has really, that's been it for me. And the rest is just kind of, I don't want to say it's fallen in my lap, but it's at a time now where it's good to be a gal that's out there, getting things done.
Well, like your bio says, redefining the stereotype of the female angler, right?
Right.
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 Well, we know
Yep.
you work really hard, and I'm sure it's all well deserved what you've done over the years. And thank you. I know we talked about the Outdoor Profits Academy that we've built, and I know that when we talked, you gave us a lot of good advice on what to put in it in terms of helping our little different niches, helping uh, aspiring anglers or even current anglers kind of get their social media in a kind of a cohesive system, so that
Right.
when they do apply for sponsorship, they know what they're doing, and the sponsor knows that, hey, this guy's or gal is trained, and we want them. We've actually had recently, actually yesterday, a bait company said, I'll take anybody that comes through your training, which was like, hey, that's really cool. It's validation of what we're doing. And, I appreciate your input as to, and when we built this out. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad it helped. It's, unfortunately now you have to be, well, it's not unfortunate. It's just it's a thing now. It used to be, you could, for the guys, you could be, down home Alabama, kicking everybody's butt in the tournament scene, but you didn't get the social media part, and now it's like you almost have to have all your bases covered. You need to be well spoken. You've got to be able to be at seminars and be, go out and do the whining and the dining and have the social media presence there. Because if you don't, you really have to be able to catch them in order to make a living at this thing. Like,
Well, it's, the assumption, Kristine, is that you can fish. You sure as hell better be able to fish, right? If you're coming
yep,
knocking on a sponsor's door, that's the first thing they assume. And if you can't do that, then you got no shot right away, you know,
right,
because
right.
the whole audience, I guess, the whole industry has been elevated by people just getting better and better and better with better technology out there. And,
Yep.
the secret sauce is having your media, your social game in line. And, that's
It
what we're trying to do with the academy.
Yep, it's only it'll only help you get to where you need to be. You've got to, if you can elevate yourself on all of those different levels, you're going to be very appealing to a lot of sponsors out there.
Yeah.
That's so important. I mean, doing your own, being able to be well versed with video editing and little short clips and taking good pictures, and that's just barely scratching the surface. There's a whole nother dimension of that it comes into, and knowing the ins and outs of the product, because you've got hundreds of thousands of other guys and gals out there that are vying for those same sponsorships. So you have to be, you got to work your tail off for it. You really do.
Right. So the thing is, how are you going to set yourself? There was just a post from a fishing company and it was a prominent fisherman that said, hey, the pro staff is taking apps, right? And here's our different levels and all this stuff. And it's like, all right, do you know how many people are going to apply for that? And how are you going to set yourself apart, right? How are you going to get to the top of that stack for those pro staff managers to notice you, So, I mean,
Yeah.
that's kind of the thing that we're trying to help out people.
You have to set yourself apart. If you look at it, there's, now there's, thousands of guys that do decent enough in tournaments, right?
Yep.
And fish and know their product, thousands of them. So they have to find something that sets them apart. Same with the females. I mean, social media is inundated with all these different women fishing. So you have to find something that sets you apart. For me, I could do it on the tournament scene. I could prove that I'm not just another marketing gal. I know I'm out here fishing tournaments, cashing checks, and that was kind of my way. And I do a lot of it. I do a lot of big solo trips. I don't have anybody's help with a lot of it. And so that kind of allowed me to set myself apart. And it doesn't have to be, gal doesn't have to be a tournament angler to do that. But you got to find that one thing that you can offer that nobody else can. And when you find that, you can pretty much write your ticket in this thing.
Right. Right. What type of time commitment is typical for any one of your sponsors?
It really varies across the board. Each have, it really does. Gosh, I mean, I've got several of them. I'm trying to think of just a standard one. It is when you have 15, 20 sponsorships, it is a full-time job. And
Yep.
I've had to work really hard this year kind of finding that balance, because I'm a tournament angler first, but the sponsorships, I mean, that is my job now, is to represent them and to do my best I can for them. And so if you look at guys like Mike Iaconelli and people that hustle, more than anybody out there, he's posted 3 or 4 times a day doing multiple videos. I mean, I don't know when that guy sleeps, and I've kind of felt a little bit of that this year, just really taking every opportunity to make sure that I'm not only doing what's required of me for these companies, but going above and beyond and getting them extra of what they need. I always try to do that. I mean, it literally feels like a full-time job. I don't ever really have a lot of downtime, but I like going 100 miles an hour. So for me, it kind of works out, but
Right.
it's year long, it's daily, it's weekly. It never stops. It's a full-time deal.
Well, so yeah, the full time, and it's kind of a grind at times as well. But I mean, there's a lot of great things about the business as well. What do you think? What would you say is one of your favorite things about doing what you do?
Yeah, that's easy. Clearly my favorite thing is that I truly get to do what I love more than anything else in the world every single day. And it's one of those things, if the cameras weren't there and the money wasn't there, I'd still be fishing, regardless if I were getting paid to do it or not, I'd still be fishing. But the fact that I get to do it and make a living is one of life's greatest blessings that I've ever experienced. When you truly love to fish, that's all you want to do. And when you're able to do that, you have bad days on the water, but you sit back and you kick your feet up and you're like, man, this is really not that bad of a day.
At least I wasn't in a cubicle, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I wasn't built for that life at all. So to be able to live out my dreams and do this thing full time it's so worth it. It's so worth it. When I think anybody, people that have a dream of redesigning houses or fixing cars, people that are able to make their hobby I don't even want to call it a job. It's not a job. It's your lifestyle.
Right.
That's a cool thing. You really feel like people that are truly able to live out their purpose. And I think way too many of us don't ever take the necessary steps and the risks involved that allow you to live out your purpose.
Yeah, I think there's people in the outdoor world have a lot of passion about what they do. And one time I was I was out in Utah at the Browning offices. I was working with Browning. This was in a previous life. But anyway, we did a tour and we went down into the shooting area with the tunnel and sand and everything, where this fella was, he was on the bench and he had it aimed, and he wasn't shooting at the time, but he said, are you working? And he turned around and he said, well, if you call shooting working, then I guess I'm working. That's just a great quote for kind of what we do. I don't feel like what I do is work. It's fun. It's a grind, but it's still a lot better than being in a cubicle. That's for damn sure.
But the grind is fun. I mean, really, if you're wired that way, I mean, that's awesome. Exactly what it's all about. And I feel like there's so many of us that are doing that, and we're so incredibly fortunate. But we have worked for it. There are sacrifices that have to be made to get to that point. They're so worth it.
What do you along those lines? Anybody that's watching this that wants to get into the business, what kind of advice or what kind of steps would you say? Okay, here's what you need to do.
I would say be smart about it. If this is something that you truly want to do and you're genuinely passionate about getting into this industry, don't let anybody tell you that you can't. You'll hear that a lot, and there's a lot of those outside voices that'll come in and say that, A, you can't make this a living. 3, 2, you'll never make it. 3, it's what a silly career. You have to really drown those voices out, listen to yourself, and then you have to go for it. You've got to take every necessary step. You've got to keep pushing. And you have to work harder than anybody to get to that point. But once you get there, like I said, the doors just open. Yeah. It was not easy for me. I've been doing this thing for 10 years. a long time. I haven't been on social media that long, but even my first few years on social media, I wasn't able to do what I'm doing now. It didn't come easy for me at all. It took years and years of kind of building who I was and grinding and getting out there and fishing the tournaments year after year. So it definitely didn't come overnight, didn't come easy. It took years, and then it just kind of happened. You just got to keep pushing.
Well, you've done a really, really good job, and you're very good at what you do, and keep up the grind. And I've got one more question for you though, and that is, if you had one setup, one rod, one reel, one line, one bait, that's the only thing you could use, what would it be?
Probably. Are we talking like for any species, or are we bass fishing?
We got one setup. Any species.
Okay. I was gonna go a musky thing, but I'll do something I can catch. I can do a little bit of everything with. So I'm gonna go a 7.4 heavy fast rod. I like the St. Croix Legend Extreme. I'm gonna do 16 to 20 pound fluorocarbon with a 1/2 ounce scrounger jig head and a 6-inch trimmer shad as a trailer.
Fantastic. That's a great question. I mean, I love asking it because, people smile and go, ooh, they do just what you did. Like, ooh, I have to think about that one. And, you're going to get different answers from different people depending upon where they are. And so like I say, I always like asking that question. What's on the horizon? The rest of the year and 2021. Damn, we just got to get rid of 2020, right? Let's go right into 2021.
2020's been great for me. I've really been able to look at it as if, I was able to kind of I was forced to slow down, and that was probably one of the best things for me, because I was going 100 miles an hour. So I like 2020. I hate all the destruction that's going on, but I'm really trying to focus on the positive. But the rest of my fall, the next 5 weekends, I have big tournaments, and then I've got 2 of my biggest ones of the year on the championships that I've qualified for. So my fall is going to be 100 miles an hour nonstop. 2021 is going to be much of the same. I mean, I have a full schedule. I'll probably fish 15, 20 tournaments again, and have all kinds of different trips and sponsor obligations kind of penciled in there as well, and shoots and everything, and doing a couple of, probably try to film a little bit, and just keep doing this thing I call life.
That's right. So that's a great note to end on. Kristine, you are a rock star, and we're so excited that you spent the time with us. I know you're really, really busy, but we appreciate talking, and I just love talking to people who are passionate about the business, and really appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure being here, and thank you so much for having me.